I hope you had a nice Christmas. Today I have decided to do a Mutant. It's for a story that I'm working on. If you'd like to know how I did it, keep watching. So here we are. So I had a few goes and then came up with this idea of a sort of elongated monster mutant. And so what I've done is I've created a new layer and just sketched out a sort of rough idea of where I wanted to go with it. And in order to get the perspective, I kind of imagined a box. So I sort of drew that out and that was how I got it. So the box was bigger on the bottom and smaller on the top. And then I drew the sort of creature within that. As is now my way, really, I used the lasso tool to go around it and just sort of map out vaguely where I want to fill it in with grey. After that, I created a separate layer and started working on the face. I find really that if I work on the face, the rest sort of follows. So I wanted to create something quite ugly, quite mutated, obviously. The body horror aspect in horror always affects me. If it's done well, I will really enjoy it. That's one of the reasons why I like the film The Thing. Here I went to Envato Elements, again, not a sponsor. And I got a corridor, just a sort of generic corridor. I think it's like a subway or something. And I just changed the colour, just did a colour filter over the top. Nothing serious. And the plan was to use the mid-tone from the background to just paint roughly where all the colours are going to go. So in professional terms, I think this is called the flats. I wanted to make it look, as I tend to say, very painterly. So I'm using a dynamic oil brush to do this. So I'm just getting it all in there, and then I do a different colour for the clothing, because this is, in my head, used to be a person. So all their clothes have been ripped off. They're properly ghoulish now. So my plan is to create a lot of shadow. I had a sort of idea in mind where I wanted to do quite a sort of smoky atmosphere, quite a sort of derelict looking corridor. And I wanted the viewer to be looking up. I wanted the viewer to feel intimidated by this thing. So now I'm clearly doing the shadows. So I got those from the actual corridor. So it matches. So as long as all the colours match the corridor, I'm happy. And I can just start gradually working in all these details. So I'm using this to get the musculature in. And I'm doing it all very, very rough. I just want to sort of get to a point where I'm happy with it first and think about where the shadows are going to lie, because the light's above the mutant. So I have to think a little outside the box, I guess. The light's coming down, so where isn't the light? That's how I kind of work out my shading. So with the actual light above, I don't want to go straight to white. So I picked the lightest colour around the light bulb to just get the highlights in, so it's more natural. And then later on, using a pencil brush, I will put in the white of the light, but sort of more closer to the top. Then what I did was I did a selection tool and inverted it. So I did the selection tool that got everything outside of the mutant, then I inverted it so that I could paint inside the mutant. And I used a blender brush, which is like a mixer brush, just to kind of get the sketchiness out. I think it does a pretty good job. I wasn't going to work too hard on the features of the hand and things like that. I mean, I could have gone overboard and started putting in textures and things like that. But, you know, for this particular picture, I knew I was going to sort of fuzzle that sort of stuff out. I wanted it to be quite smoky. So again, with creases, I tend to do the sort of like dark bits first, sort of streaks, then blend it out. And then once I've blended it out, I use a soft brush to sort of do a sort of lighter highlight of the same colour, and then start doing the stronger lights. So here you can see that I'm actually doing the strong rim light from the light above it. And it really does create like a really good contrast. So if you've got your shadows correct, so it matches your scene, then when you do the highlights, it really pops. But you know, just looking at it, I can see that it's quite flat at the minute. I'm just color matching it there. You can do that however you want. You can play around with saturation and things, or you can go to the image and go to color match and color match it with the layer. But I tend to treat my pictures literally like paintings, so I don't mind painting over things as long as it's all on separate layers. It's fine. This part actually turned out to be a waste of time. So I was messing around with trying to sort of make the shadows reflective, and then I thought, why am I doing this? Just copy and paste the mutant and flip it upside down. Then I used the deform tool to push it into place. You can find the deform tool when you do Control T to select your creature. You can right click inside that and pick deform or perspective. I picked deform to make that work, and it's really effective. So once I've done that reflection, I did a gradient map on the mask that I put on it, and it just sort of fades it away. You'll see me do that in a moment. Or have I already done it? I've already done it. No, this is me working on the smoke now, or dust. And it's always good to kind of like create a bit of a depth in your image. So sort of fade out that hind leg, just creates the illusion that it's behind everything. This thing's walking towards us, me. I did the light on a separate level. Separate layer, I mean, and then played around with it, you know, to try and find the correct one. Then I got the text and decided that I wanted something on the wall, something to kind of like make it look a little bit more realistic, like it's an actual place. So I thought, you know, Delta 4, why not? Sounds military, sounds clever. Again, using the deform tool, so you do Control T, select that, and right click inside, and then you can select deform. I was going to do two of these as well. I was going to do one on the other side, and I just decided not to. Then I did a layer mask next to it, got a rough brush, and just painted away, reduced the opacity a little bit, painted away parts of it to make it look a bit more rustic. Then I did the layer style, so you go onto the layer, right click on that, and then you can play around the layer style. So I did drop shadow, but I just made it quite faint, and then I duplicated it, made it highlighted, and then I, using a layer mask, I inverted the layer mask with Control I, painted it back. So by going to filter and then to render, I was able to make a lens flare on a completely black background and then converted that to screen, and that created the lens flare to put anywhere I want. And here's the finished article. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I also write horror and sci-fi books, so look me up on Amazon under Richard Coyley. Bye.